Hi, my name's Janelle. I'm from the Pack Track and I'm going to take you through the installation of a Pillion Pooch on my motorcycle. I've placed everything on the ground. This is the base assembly. Over here we have the false floor that slides into the base assembly. These are our 4 roll bars, a chain, a Chinograph pencil for marking up, a pencil sharpener, all of our screws, the apex, a dog bed and canvas cover. Over here are all the bits we need for the installation, so this does not come with your Pillion Pooch. You're going to need a ruler and a tape measure, preferably both. This is a punch. We're using 8mm U-bolts, so this is an 8mm drill bit. This is a Posi 2 and a 5mm hex or Allen bit. You can use a manual driver or electric. Over here we have a hammer, some thread lock. For the installation on my rack, we're using 4 U-bolts, a spanner, another hex piece, 6mm, and a socket set. So that's everything that we're going to use today. This is the rack I have on my bike. It's made by Metal Mule. The first thing we're going to do is take the base assembly, turn it upside down on a table, and do some marking with our Chinograph pencil. If you look inside the base of the tub, we have these ridges. So there have been holes drilled there to allow water out. On the base, on the metal base, we have holes that we're going to mark up with the Chinograph pencil and a ruler. So we make sure that where we're drilling and where we're mounting the U-bolts falls within these quadrants. Okay, so here are our 16 holes to mark out where our 4 quadrants are. And I'm just going to mark them up with the Chinograph pencil. Now that we've got this marked up, we're going to place the base assembly onto the rack. Make sure that your motorcycle's on the center stand, and what we want to do is get the rack to fit in this area, keeping in mind where exactly you want it to sit on the bike, but this is your guide. So let's do that. Make sure you get it all squared. I want to be able to have a pillion on my bike, so I need to move this back a bit. There. Yep, the rack is all sitting within the lines. It's pretty even. I'm going to grab the Chinograph pencil and I'm going to draw around the rack so that I can use that as my reference when I take it off to mark out the spot for the U-bolts. Now we're going to take the rack off the bike and sit it in here so that we can properly mark out where the U-bolts are going to go and the orientation to get it just right. I've pulled my rack off my bike and I've got my lines roughly where I wanted it to go. So I'll just place it there for now. The first thing I need to do before I square it up is figure out where my U-bolts are going to go. You need to think about the distribution of load and forces and things. So for me, I'm using 4 U-bolts. 2 need to go in this direction and 2 need to go in this direction. So I'm going to put 2 there and 2 down this side. The next step is to take your ruler or your tape measure and square everything up so it's even. We don't want to have one side overhanging more than another. We want to make sure it's square to the rack so when it sits on the bike it's not on an angle. Now I've got the rack exactly where I want it to go. I'm just going to do one last check with my tape measure, and what I'm looking for is to make, or my ruler, sorry, is to make sure that all of my measurements are the same in each position. Yep, both sides, and we need to now mark where we're drilling the holes for the U-bolts. So I recommend basically placing it where you want it to go, and remembering which side. Just beside it, do a little cross. Okay. Try not to bump your rack while you're doing this. It's okay that the hole will be drilled on the line. The main thing is that the rack's sitting inside there. Great, so they're marked up. We can move the rack off, and the next thing will be to drill the holes. Okay, so I've grabbed the punch and the hammer. It's much easier to drill into the material if there's sort of an indentation already there. So that's the purpose of using this. Just before I do go ahead, something to remember when you're marking all this out, make sure that the back of your rack is at the back of the Pillion Pooch, or the front of your rack is at the front of the Pillion Pooch. Don't accidentally put it on the wrong way round. You'll wish you hadn't done that. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the hole, on the point that I marked. Yeah, you can see there's just a little hole forming, which the drill bit will be able to sit in. Just give you a more controlled drill. Okay, for a bit of peace of mind, you can just grab your U-bolt and double check that your holes are lining up the center of where your U-bolt's going to go in. I'm going to start with a smaller drill bit to do a pilot hole. Okay, so that's gone through the 3mm metal base, and the plastic goes through the plastic pretty quick actually. Now I'm going to step straight up to the 8mm drill bit. I finished the drilling. Two of them was a little tight getting the U-bolt in, so we upped the drill size slightly just to make it a little wider, and that's not a problem. And it's good for you to know, because on the other side there'll be this plate that that goes through. So it's not a problem if you don't quite get it right and you need to make one of your holes slightly larger. That's okay. Just before we do put it all back together, I'll do a check to make sure all my U-bolts go in and sit with the rack. There we go. So that's what it's going to look like. I've put my rack back on the bike, tightened that all up. I placed the base on and fed all the U-bolts through with the plate. This is sort of specific to the rack I'm using, this design, but I've put just one nut on. I haven't tightened anything yet because I just want to make sure I get it in place in the right spot first. Then the last step for me is to take my locking nut and use some thread lock and put it all together with a socket and tighten it up so it's really safe and secure. of the nuts are on the U-bolts and tightened with thread lock. So do the wiggle test, make sure it's solid. I'm really happy with that. So now I'm going to put the false floor in. It's just got 4 screws. These don't have to go in overly tight because it's a false floor. It's just to kind of hold it in place, stop it moving around. I'm going to put the 4 roll bars in place next. They feed through the holes and down to the base, and they're held in place with a screw that has 2 washers, a spring washer which goes up close to the head of the screw, and then the bigger of the 2 washers. When you feed the roll bar through and you put this in, just kind of get it in place. Don't do it up tight because the apex will need to go on and be fastened in place first. Here is the threaded insert in the base where this is going to go into. The 4 roll bars are in and all of the screws are just loosely in, but if you are having difficulty feeding the roll bar through the hole, if it's not quite lining up, you may need to get a drill and just shave away the edge. It may just be slightly caught, so if it is, that's not a problem. Just grab a drill and sort of shave it out so that it goes in. Before you assemble the apex on the roll bars, just have a quick play and line up, make sure that all the screws are lining up like that. So I put that together and I'm checking the outside ones just to look. It's just a visual check to make sure the screws are going to go through. You may find that in 180 degrees, a 180 degree rotation, where is it? That it doesn't line up so well. One way it does, the other way it doesn't so well. So just check that, and you have your pencil that you can mark those 2 go together. This is probably easiest done with 2 people. You could manage it by yourself. If you've got somebody else around that can help you. With the base, the bigger bits go to the front and back, and these smaller bits go to the side. You just have to line the roll bar up into the indentations or the mold, like that. And then remember where you put your 2 markings to make sure that they line up. So that's like that. You're going to need your screw ready to go with a spring washer and then a normal washer. Push that up. Do it sort of finger tight, and then you can get the tool in too. Okay, that's caught, so I'll move on to the other side, which will make my life much easier. This one. A little fiddly. Got it. So, finger tight. Okay, so that's going to hold it in place now, and I need to go around and do the rest. So just again, it's this screw with the spring washer and the sort of normal washer. Just going to get them all in place before I tighten any of them up. The chain is kind of the last assembly part that you have to do. It's got the 4 screw holes on the plate, so they line up inside here, and Then you take your other screw. This has the section of non-thread up near the head, and on there we have our spring washer and another normal washer again. And we're just going to do the same thing, just kind of finger tight for now. I now have all 2, 4, 6, 10 screws in just loose. They're all in there though. Everything's lined up okay. I'm happy with it. Now I'm going to go through and tighten them, but I'm going to start with the outside ones first and then do the inside ones last. I'm applying pressure to the top of the apex just to make sure that the roll bars are slotted in place and everything's nice and tight. So not too much pressure though. The bike will fall over. Let's do a check. Okay, the spring washer is a dead giveaway whether you've gone tight enough or not. Okay, alright, so that's the hard part done. I just have to go around and tighten up the roll bars, don't forget about that. We just have to pop the bed in and the cover on. When you're putting the cover on, it's definitely easier if you undo these front zips. Alright, we've got some twist fasteners at the front. These just go in and do up very simple, easy. You might need to jiggle it a bit when it's brand new, just to get it on really well. Oops, that's the right way. Okay, so yeah, installation complete. And tomorrow I'll be riding to the Ace Cafe in London with my dog.